executive powers, full legislative powers, additional powers through the 20th Amendment, but the fate of the people.
What's happening around the world and what's happening here at home? A very good evening to you and welcome to Primetime News. I'm Sandro Ferdinando. Let's now take a look at your headlines for tonight.
Udaya Gammanpilla and Vimal Veeravansa out. Gamini Lokage appointed as Energy Minister.
මේ බෙසිල් රාජපක්ෂ මැතිතුමා ඊළඟ ජනාධිපතිවරණට ඉල්ලයි කියන බය මේ තියෙන මං කෙලින්ම කියන්න. එහෙම ඉල්ලුවොත් විමල් වීරවංශ වන්න මට ඉල්ලන්න බැරි වෙයිද?
New diesel shipment reaches Sri Lanka. Queues for fuel continue to grow. Gas companies hit by shortage of dollars. Maximum retail price imposed on paracetamol. Finance Minister meets new US ambassador. Sri Lanka abstains from voting on UN resolution in favor of Ukraine.
First up in news, here at home, President Gotabaya Rajapaksa removed Udaya Gammanpilla and Vimal Veeravansa from their ministerial positions today. The President's media division said this was done in line with the powers vested with the President in the Constitution. SBD Sarnayaka says he was appointed as the Ministry of Industries, replacing Vimal Veeravansa, while Gamini Lokage said that he was replaced as the Gammanpilla by the Ministry of Energy.
Gamini Lokage took oaths as the Minister of Energy today. Pavitra Vanyarachi was sworn in to replace him as the Minister of Power. Madam.
දැන් තමයි අමතෙන්සේ අලුත් එකක් හම්බ වෙනවා කියලා දැනගත්ත දිවුරුවේ. ඉතින් අපි වාඩි වෙලා බලන්න ඕනේ කොහොමද කටයුතු කරන්න කියලා.
දැන්වත් එතකොට තෙල් ලැබෙයිද?
ඔව් ඉතින් ඒ කටයුත්ත කරන්නේ මාපත් කරේ.
ඔව් දැන් මොකද ලැබුණේ එමත්කම?
බලශක්තිය ඇමතිකම.
හිටපු ඇමතුමාලව ඉවත් කරන්න හේතුව කිව්වද අද දිනේදී?
නෑ මට ඒ පිළිබඳ සාකච්ඡාවක් දැන් තිබුණේ නෑ.
විමල් වීරවංශ ඇමතුමා සහ ගම්මන්පිල ඇමතුමා ඉවත් කරන්න හේතුව ඊයේ දිනේදී ලොකු ප්‍රසංගයක් පවත්වලා මේ විවේචනය කිරීමද?
නෑ ආණ්ඩුවක ඉන්නවා නම් ආණ්ඩුවේ කැබිනට් මණ්ඩලයේ ඉන්නවා නම් ආණ්ඩුවත් එක්ක ඉන්න ඕනේ. ආණ්ඩුවත් එක්ක ඉන්නේ නැත්නම් අස්වලා ගිහිල්ලා ඒ කටයුත්ත කරන්න පුළුවන්.
The Sri Lanka Pudujana Peramuna parliamentarians group attended a meeting at the Presidential Secretariat today. Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa and Finance Minister Basil Rajapaksa were present.
ඊයේ පක්ෂය 11ක් සහභාගී වෙලා විශේෂ ප්‍රකාශන කිහිපයක් ප්‍රකාශ වුණා ආණ්ඩුව සම්බන්ධයෙන්.
ඔව් ඉතින් ඒක ගැන විනය පරීක්ෂණයක් කරයි.
ඒ කියන්නේ ඒ ආණ්ඩුවෙන් ගියාට විනය පරීක්ෂණයක් කරනවද?
ආණ්ඩුවේ ගියා එයාගලන්ට තීන්දුවක් කරන්න වෙන්නේ එහෙම ඇවිල්ලා කැබිනට් එකේ කොහොමද වැඩ කරන්නේ කියලා.
දැන් එතකොට ඒක සාමූහික වගකීම කඩකිරීමක්.
කඩකිරීමක් නෑ ආණ්ඩුවේ ඉඳද්දි ආණ්ඩුව හැල්ලුපත් කරනවා නම් ඒ තීන්දුවක් ගන්න එපා නම් ඒගොල්ලෝ.
Some government backbench MPs convened a media briefing today. I wish to reveal a secret. Minister Vimal Veeravansa is aspiring to become the president. They can't become presidents like this. They are afraid that Basil Rajapaksa will contest the next election. They are tarnishing Gotabaya Rajapaksa's image amidst suspicion whether he would contest next time. Vimal Veeravansa is wondering whether he can become president, while Udaya Gammanpilla and former President Maithripala Sirisena is wondering whether they can become prime minister. They are all afraid of Basil.
මෛත්‍රීපාල සිරිසේන හිටපු ජනාධිපතිතුමත් දැන් අද වෙනකොට බෙසිල් රාජපක්ෂ මැතිතුමාට බයක් තමයි පේන්නේ.
Finance Minister Basil Rajapaksa has met the new US ambassador to Sri Lanka, Julie Chung. In a tweet, the ambassador said the discussion was held on today's economic challenges and how they can be solved. She added that, and I quote, "We all want an economy that is prosperous," unquote.
Is there a shortage of paracetamol?
මේ වෙනකොට දැන් සති දෙකක් විතර තිස්සේ පැරසිටමෝල් නැහැ හිගයි.
The Energy Ministry says it is releasing 33,000 metric tons of diesel to the market from a tanker that reached the country recently. Energy Ministry spokesperson Shaminda Hettiarti said another ship carrying 28,300 metric tons of diesel is to arrive tomorrow. But long queues are now a common sight at the filling stations that are running out of fuel.
Buses carrying petrol and diesel were seen leaving the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation's storage terminal in Kulanawa today. However, only petrol was released from the CPC's Muthurajwala terminal this morning. From the Lanka IOC's storage terminal in Trincomalee, buses carrying petrol and diesel were seen leaving the facility. However, the long queues at filling stations across the country continued today as well. The filling station in Orogodawatta received 6,600 litres of diesel yesterday, but it wasn't enough for vehicles that were arriving there since last night. The state-run CPC filling station in Colombo 2 only sold petrol to the long queues of vehicles that had gathered there. The CPC filling station in Town Hall received a new stock of diesel today. The filling stations in Pitakote and the one opposite the Naga Viharya also received 6,600 litres of diesel.
මේවා පිනාස් ගෙවන්න ඕනේ අපි ජීවත් වෙන්න ඕනේ අපේ දරුපවුල් ඔක්කොම අන්නත්තර වෙලා තියෙන්නේ දැන් මේ මාණ්ඩුවක් අපිට වැඩක් නැහැ ඇත්තටම කියනවා නම්.
Buses were seen supplying fuel to filling stations in Kandy and its surrounding areas, but the sale of diesel was restricted. Some fuel stations in the Kandy town had not received diesel. 6,600 litres of diesel was distributed among some filling stations in the Kurunegala town. Our correspondent reported that diesel was sold based on a token system. 100 tokens were issued to people who were allowed to purchase diesel for a maximum of 1,000 rupees. Diesel was sold to vehicles with a limit of 5,000 rupees. A filling station in Rikil-Lagaskade received a limited stock of diesel today. Long queues were seen at an IOC filling station in Halyala since last night. Petrol and diesel were sold under certain limits at a filling station in Hinguraggoda in Polonnarwa. People had gathered at a fuel station in Mathura since last night.
මහින්ද මහත්තයා ඡන්දෙ දුන්න ගෝඨාභය මහත්තයාට ඡන්දෙ දීපු කට්ටිය අපි. දැන් අපිට මොකක්ද වෙලා තියෙන්නේ? අපි පුංචිව බඩගින්නේ. දැන් ඡන්දෙ දුන්නට වැඩක් නැහැනේ. ඒ කට්ටිය සැප විඳිනවා අපි දුක විඳිනවා.
A long queue was seen at the fuel station in Nugegoda to purchase petrol.
අපි ඔක්කොම අඳුරේ කරුවලේ පාරවල් වල මේ රස්තියා දෙනවා. මිනිස්සුන්ගේ ආවේගය දැන් ඇවිල්ලා තියෙන්නේ. මේක නිකන් පත්තු වෙන බෝම්බයක් වගේ. කොයි වෙලාවෙ පුපුරලා යයිද දන්නේ නැහැ.
Our correspondent reported that the sale of fuel was limited across filling stations in the Anuradhapura town.
යන්න විදියක් නැහැ කොල්ලන්ටවත් විදියක් නැහැ වාහන ඔහි ඉන්නවා දාගෙන ඉතින් මොකද ගන්නේ දැන් රට කන්නද දන්නේ මම මේ හදන්නේ කාලා තියෙන රටම.
In some areas, frustration among people in queues is now leading to violence. In this security camera footage, two people were seen attacking a worker at a filling station in Anuradhapura after they were informed that there is no fuel. The incident had occurred at around 12:30 this morning. A man had filmed himself at an IOC filling station in Kelaniya, claiming that a senior police officer was allowed to pump fuel without waiting in a queue. He had referred to the police officer as the senior DIG in charge of the narcotics range. In a statement, police spokesperson SSP Nihal Thalduwa said the senior DIG of the narcotics range, JAUP Jasingha, had rejected those claims.
Protests were held in many areas opposing the fuel crisis in the country. One protest was held near the Nelumpokuna Theatre in Colombo.
The Samagi Taruna Balawegya held a vigil opposing the fuel crisis that has affected the people.
මේ දේශපාලනය කරන මිනිස්සු කවදද පොලිමේ හිටියේ උන් ඉන්නවද මේ ගෑස් පොලිමේ උන් ඉන්නවද තෙල් පොලිමේ උදේටයි රැටයි කරන්ට් එක යනවා දරුවන්ට ගෙදර ඉඳලා පාඩම් කරන්න විදියක් නැහැ.
People of Ingria who couldn't purchase petrol for 5 days also took part in a protest today.
Out of frustration over the fuel shortage, residents of Ingria held a protest by blocking the main road from Panadura to Ratnapura. The Ingria police managed to disperse the protesters after about half an hour. The people of Ingria had not been able to purchase or receive fuel even by this afternoon.
The Ceylon Electricity Board says power cuts up to 7.5 hours will be imposed tomorrow. These power cuts will be imposed from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. and then from 8:30 p.m. to 11 p.m. Power cuts of a similar duration were imposed today as well.
The Samagi United Trade Union says Sri Lanka can obtain enough fuel to generate electricity if the Sabukaskanda oil refinery functions at full capacity.
We have up to 5,000 metric tons of crude oil, which is enough to run the refinery. We can use that to generate 2,000 metric tons of furnace oil. Another 350 metric tons of naphtha can also be produced. This is enough for 5 power plants. There is no need to impose power cuts. There is an issue between the finance and energy ministers. This corrupt government must stop importing fuel through the mafia that obtains commissions and show how dollars are flowing into the country.
The Litro and Loves gas companies say that they are facing issues in opening letters of credit to import gas to the country. This has sparked concerns on whether there would be a shortage of gas cylinders in Sri Lanka.
Litrogas Lanka says a gas consignment has reached Keravalapitia and that it will be used to distribute gas cylinders. The Loves Gas says it hasn't received letters of credit to import gas. A letter of credit is a document provided by a bank guaranteeing that a seller will receive the buyer's payment on time.
If we don't receive the required letters of credit, there is a danger of a gas shortage in Sri Lanka in the coming months. When prices in the world market increase, it will lead to a shortage. We should receive letters of credit worth about $5 or $10 million in the coming days. Otherwise, we will face a shortage of gas cylinders as we can't import gas.
What did Sri Lanka's foreign minister tell the UN human rights chief?
A shortage of paracetamol has arisen in the market, and in this report we decide to find out the reason behind this.
Paracetamol shortage.
පැරසිටෝල් නම් මේ දවස්වල නෑ. උච්චර කාලෙකින් ඒ කියලාද හිතන්නත් බෑ.
මේ වෙනකොට දැන් සති දෙකක් විතර තිස්සේ පැරසිටමෝල් නෑ හිගයි.
ඉන්දියාවේ පැරසිටමෝල් ඕන තරම් තියෙනවා. චීනේ
There is enough paracetamol in India and China, but that is not the case in Sri Lanka. Why is that? Any producer can't supply paracetamol at the rate in which it is being sold here. We are facing similar issues over other medicines as well.
The health minister has set a new maximum retail price of ₹2.30 on a 500 milligram paracetamol tablet.
Former Minister Udaya Gammanpilla yesterday said that the government will suspend the importation of 600 non-essential items. The gazette has not been released yet. Questions are now being raised on which items would be restricted under the new regulation.
We need to know what these 600 non-essential items are. Almost everything has increased in price. However, there is no particular gazette or notice. Why are ministers acting so irresponsibly? We ask those 11 members, including Gammanpilla, to reveal all the details. Industries are in turmoil. Errant traders can conceal stocks using this. When that happens, a mafia will form and that will create a black market. The prices will then increase.
The Ceylon Bank Employees Union has revealed a new perspective to the dollar crisis that is plaguing the country.
They are exerting pressure on the management of banks to obtain foreign currency and to use them for various reasons while not allowing the exchange rate of the rupee to float. This has benefited political henchmen. We have informed the relevant entities about this. Pushing banks to the wall and forcing them to release foreign currency is not the solution.
Leader of the opposition Sajith Premadasa said that if the country is to be rebuilt, sacrifices must come from the very top in governance.
If we are to move forward as a nation, we should start making sacrifices. The ruler and the administrations are the ones who should start doing it. When making sacrifices, there can't be any room for corruption. During the pandemic, there was the sugar scam, the coconut oil scam, as well as the garlic scam. If you are making sacrifices, you cannot allow such scams to happen. The administration must be transparent. You should not act like politicians, but as servicemen who are ready to develop the country at any cost.
Opposition leader Sajith Premadasa made these remarks while attending the Project Leopard program that took place in line with the World Wildlife Day. During the program, the opposition leader also handed over a set of water filters to the Yala Welfare and Mutual Aid Society.
The Janata Vimukti Peramana also convened a media briefing today.
Today we have a government and a leader that is in a coma. They don't care about the hardships faced by the public. Now these sufferings are a joke to them. They are giving false hopes to the innocent citizens of the country. At first they wanted a 2/3 majority and the 20th amendment to overcome the crisis. Then they wanted the Port City Bill to be passed in Parliament in order to open dollar inflows into the country. Then they wanted Basil Rajapaksa as the finance minister and Cabral as the central bank governor. Then they said everything will return back to normalcy once the budget is presented. Now they want another 2 to 3 months to end this crisis. Just look at the economic stats of our neighboring nations. Foreign currency reserves in India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Vietnam, Malaysia and Singapore have increased during the recent past. In the meantime, our reserves are dropping as we speak. If COVID is the reason for it, then how come COVID didn't affect the economy of these countries? This crisis is nothing but a result of improper economic planning. At the end, it's the public who are suffering from these improper decisions. Do we even have a plan as a nation to overcome this crisis?
The Executive Board of the International Monetary Fund has determined that Sri Lanka's economic future looks grim. According to the IMF, Sri Lanka's public debt has risen to unsustainable levels. This is coupled with low international reserves and persistently large financing needs in the coming years.
The International Monetary Fund's Executive Board said it had ended its consultation with Sri Lanka on the 25th of February. The consultation was aimed at assessing economic developments and discussing the country's economic and financial policies. The IMF Executive Board stressed the need for a credible strategy to restore macroeconomic stability and debt sustainability. They said this should be done by protecting vulnerable groups and reducing poverty through social safety nets. The IMF directors encouraged improvements to expenditure rationalization, budget formulation and execution, and the fiscal rule. They also encouraged authorities to reform state-owned enterprises and adopt cost recovery energy pricing. They also called for a prudent management of the Colombo Port City project and steps to strengthen governance and fight corruption.
we have significant debt payments to be made, all international. The government seems to be averse to these recommendations and have resisted the call for instance, letting the currency find its equilibrium value. They say, look, the debt payment in rupees will increase. Sure, it will. Obviously it will, because you are now calculating a dollar at the new rate. But what does it matter? Because you have to pay these loans in dollars. You can say whatever it is in rupees, but unless you either earn a dollar or borrow a dollar, you cannot repay a dollar that is coming due.
Central Bank Governor Ajit Newad Cabral says that all questions will be answered tomorrow.
press conference
Humanity amidst war.
President Gotabaya Rajapaksa handed over appointment letters to 13 new High Court judges today.
AG Alubge, RRJUTK Rajakaruna, TMCS Gunasekara, M. Prabhat Ranasingha, R. Valuvatta, A. Nishanta Peris, SMAS Manchanayaka and L. Chamat Madanayaka, who served as district court judges, were appointed as High Court judges by the President today. In addition, Chief Magistrate RMSV Chandrasiri and Magistrates RADUN Ranatunga and GL Priyanta are among the High Court judges who were appointed today. Senior State Councils VM Veerasurya and HADN Hevawasam were appointed as High Court judges by the President. President Gotabaya Rajapaksa, speaking to the newly appointed High Court judges, said that it was his aim to secure the independence of the judiciary, ensure the rule of law in the country and prevent the delays in court proceedings.
17 trade unions in the health sector have decided to halt their strike for 10 days from 8 a.m. tomorrow. But the strike left several people stranded at state-run hospitals across the country.
Healthcare workers, excluding nurses, launched a strike from 8 a.m. yesterday. Public health inspectors were also part of the strike.
I have to obtain medicines after producing my medical report. They are putting forward their demands by making us scapegoats. I don't know any other country in which the health service uses patients as a scapegoat. This is unfortunate. The health secretary allowed us to meet him yesterday. We felt they are more committed to resolving this problem, but we don't know whether that is the truth. We decided to call off the strike at 8 a.m. tomorrow.
The Sri Lanka Wanita Bhimana Summit 2022 was held at the BMICH in Colombo today. The Sri Lanka Wanita Bhimana 2022 competitions were held across all 9 provinces during the past few months amidst multiple challenges. The program was aimed at empowering women and identifying issues faced by them in rural Sri Lanka. The issues faced by women in rural areas were put forward to an expert panel which provided its recommendations on addressing them. These solutions were discussed further at today's Sri Lanka Wanita Bhimana Summit. Female professionals from many sectors including businesses and education, leaders, political and civil activists, artists and officials from the Ministry of Women Affairs were present.
This forum is important. It brought together people from fields like education and law. I see this as an opportunity to do something great.
එකතු වෙලා යමක් කරන්න පුළුවන් අවස්ථාවක් විදියට මම මේක දකිනවා කාන්තාවන් දිරිගැන්වීමට කාන්තාවන්ගේ තියෙන ප්‍රශ්න අඳුනා ගැනීමට සහ ඒවට විසඳුම් සෙවීමට ගත් ප්‍රයත්නයක් විදියට මම දකින්නේ.
The proposals and suggestions that were discussed at today's summit are to be handed over to the UN and the Ministry of Women Affairs on Women's Day that falls on the 8th of March. 3 former governors held a joint media briefing today.
Former governors Azad Sali, Kirti Thenakon and President's Counsel Maitri Gunaratne attended the media briefing today. Lawyer Gunaratne Wandinayake was also present at the media briefing, in which views were expressed on the current situation of the country. There is a reason why Sri Lanka is bankrupt. No one speaks about that. What is it? It's the construction of a port without ships, the Mantala airport without planes, an auditorium without conferences, a ground without cricket matches, and an unnecessary bridge. This is how they wasted dollars. It was the Rajapaksa family that wasted the most amount of money. The time has come for us to unite. We wish to tell the leaders of all opposition parties that they haven't been fulfilling the duties on behalf of the society. Therefore, everyone should unite and come forward for this struggle. Otherwise, we will have to reveal details about all of you, including your deals with the government, your mistakes, and why you are not criticizing the government. Amidst the crisis relating to the economy, dollars and fuel, and the hunger of the people, they are spending money unnecessary on building roads and other projects to allow their henchmen to fill their pockets. They are doing this targeting the provincial council elections. The government is trying to create a corrupt environment where there will be no democracy in elections. They are trying to conduct the election using an online registration system in which more than 74,000 people who completed 18 years have been excluded.
කට වැඩි ප්‍රමාණයක් ලියාපදිංචි නොකර තමයි ඡන්දහිමි නාම ලේඛනය ඔන්ලයින් ක්‍රමයට ප්‍රතිශෝධනය කරලා තියෙන්නේ. මේ රටේ ජනතාවට මේ වෙනකොට
The people are fed up of politicians. They hate seeing politicians. At a time like that, the opposition must step in. In any country, when the government can't run the country, the opposition takes over. But this opposition is in pieces. We wish to tell the opposition leader to unite the opposition, create a work plan for that, and reveal it to the people. Only then the people will trust that they can bring the opposition to power. Today, the government or the opposition doesn't have a plan.
අද ආණ්ඩුවටත් වැඩපිළිවෙලක් නැහැ. අද විපක්ෂයට වැඩපිළිවෙලකුත් නැහැ.
Opposition leader Sajid Premadasa says that he has a plan that would resolve Sri Lanka's fuel crisis.
To build the country, no one can be at the bottom of the barrel. They must deal with the entire world. We must deal with countries that are useful to us. We have to be able to hold talks with 3 countries that are ready to provide fuel on a credit basis, but they aren't willing to support this administration. This country can be uplifted. We have held talks to obtain fuel required by us for 2 years. We can then use foreign reserves to import essential food and medicine. We have the solution for the fuel crisis, but we can't do anything since we are in the opposition. Only governments can participate in diplomatic talks.
මේ ඉන්ධන ප්‍රශ්නයට මේ අපේ යතේ තියෙන විසඳුම. අපිට මොනවද කරන්න බෑ අපි විපක්ෂය නිසා. බමුණන්සලා දන්නවා රාජ්‍යතාන්ත්‍රික ගනුදෙනු කරන්නේ ආණ්ඩු.
Sri Lanka has abstained from backing a resolution at the United Nations in support of Ukraine yesterday.
The UN General Assembly voted to demand that Russia stop its offensive in Ukraine and withdraw all troops. A total of 141 UN member states voted for the resolution, while 5 countries voted against it and 34 abstained. Sri Lanka, together with India, were among the 34 countries that abstained from supporting the resolution against Russia. While General Assembly resolutions are non-binding, they carry political weight, with Wednesday's vote representing a symbolic victory for Ukraine and increasing Moscow's international isolation. Even Russia's traditional ally Serbia voted against it. The text of the resolution deplores Russia's aggression against Ukraine. The last time the Security Council convened an emergency session of the General Assembly was in 1982. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres said the General Assembly's message was loud and clear.
The result of the vote is as follows.
Russian forces have taken the Ukrainian city of Kherson. It's the first major urban center to fall since Moscow invaded 1 week ago. At the same time, talks between the Russian and Ukrainian delegations have begun at an undisclosed location on Ukraine's border.
Kherson, which is strategically located at the mouth of the Dnieper River's exit into the Black Sea, is the first significant urban center to fall since Moscow launched its invasion. Control of the city, which is home to about 300,000 people, is important because it could allow Moscow to mass troops there and use it as a launching post to push its forces further inland. It's been 8 days since Russia began its invasion of Ukraine. Thousands of Ukrainians packed into the Dnipro railway station in the last 24 hours to flee the Russian invasion.
Люди должны бросать свои дома и все, что у них есть, и я не знаю, но это на самом-то деле ужасно, потому что, я хотела жить в мире, и я думала, что у нас все хорошо, а одним днем получается все.
The US and UK say that Russian forces approaching Ukraine's capital Kyiv have made little progress. According to a British military intelligence assessment, Russian forces are 30 kilometers away from the center of the city. A US defense official had said they have stalled due to fuel and food shortages. In Ukraine's port city of Mariupol, hundreds of people are feared dead following hours of sustained shelling.
Що вони бачили у житті?
Our army is doing everything to fully break the enemy. Nearly 9,000 Russians have been killed in a week. Ukraine doesn't want to be covered by the dead bodies of soldiers. Go home with your whole army. We need to stop the war and restore peace as soon as possible.
Забирайтеся додому. Усією.
The US has accused Russia of launching a full war on media freedom and the truth. The US Department of State said Russia is limiting access to social media platforms that allow Russians to obtain independent information. The impact of the conflict is now felt in the sporting arena as well. The International Paralympic Committee has banned athletes from Russia and Belarus from the 2022 Winter Paralympics that is to begin in Beijing tomorrow. It apologized to para-athletes and called them the victims of their government's actions. Formula One also announced that it has terminated Russia's contract to hold Grand Prix racing events. This year's Russian Grand Prix had already been cancelled last week. Amidst all the fighting, a video has been shared on Ukrainian channels of a captured Russian soldier apparently being fed by locals. The post says he burst into tears when he was allowed to video call his mother.
Foreign Minister Professor G.L. Peiris has said the information obtained by the UN to make decisions on Sri Lanka are incorrect and may be biased. The Foreign Minister had met with United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights in Geneva. He had requested the United Nations to revisit the information and statistics obtained from Sri Lanka as it doesn't reflect the real situation of the country. St. Joseph's College, Colombo 10 held an event yesterday to commemorate its founding fathers.
Founded in the year 1896, St. Joseph's College has completed providing education to thousands of Sri Lankan students for 125 years. In line with its quasi-centennial jubilee, flowers were laid at the graves of the Rev priests who were the founding fathers of the college. Former Archbishop Christopher Bonjin, who was laid to rest at the St. Anthony's Shrine in Kochikade, former Archbishop Andre Theophile Melanson, who was laid to rest at the St. Lucius Cathedral in Kotahena, and Reverend Father Charles Collin, who was laid to rest at the Borella Cemetery, were commemorated in this manner. Holy Mass was celebrated at the college chapel. The event was attended by the rector of St. Joseph's College, Reverend Father Ranjit Andrade, members of the Old Boys Union staff and students.
Eva, a popular sanitary napkin brand by ICL Brands Private Limited of the Capital Maharaja Group, is once again at the forefront of female empowerment with another edition of Project Dhyaniya. The project is conducted in partnership with the State Ministry for Women and Child Development.
The primary focus of the Dhyaniya initiative is to ensure that all schoolgirls have their menstrual feminine hygiene needs satisfied, regardless of whether they can afford these essential items. In the initial phase, the program covered 250 schools donating sanitary cupboards, which will include sanitary napkins, face masks, sanitizers and other essential first aid items.
This is the second consecutive year, but this year the plan even expands even more
We are very happy and very proud to note that we, under the patronage of the head of state, with the blessings of the nation and the people, because brand today is in the forefront because of the Sri Lankans who have supported this brand, and we have something to give back. And we are joining hands again with the ministry in taking this brand for the second year. During this year, the brand will take to another 250 schools.
Former Energy Minister Uday Gammanpila vacated the Energy Ministry premises late this evening. Uday Gammanpila, in his final comments before leaving the Ministry of Energy late on Thursday evening, said nothing is permanent. The same goes with his ministry. He said he is never ready to betray his conscience and always spoke against what is wrong since the very first meeting of the cabinet of the ministers of the present government. Gammanpila said those who are afraid to see the truth have stripped him of his ministerial position, and he is now ready to revive the struggle to save the motherland with the people.
ඇත්තට රිදිලා අමාත්‍ය ධූරය ඉවත් කළා තියෙනවා. බොහොම සතුටුයි ඒ තීන්දුව පිළිගන්නවා. මාව අමාත්‍ය ධූරයෙන් ඉවත් කරාම මාව වැටෙන්නේ ජනතාවගේ ඔඩොක්කුවට. ජනතාව සමග මේ මව්බිම බේරා ගන්නා සටන අපි යලි පටන් ගන්නවා.
And with that, wrap up news for tonight. Thank you very much for joining us. Do take care, stay safe, and good night.